Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DICAS kickoff, the DICAS Bootcamp. I had a couple different names going, but my name is Jenny Westerkamp. I'm the founder of All Access Dietetics, and we'll be spending the next about 30 minutes plus time for Q&A to talk through DICAS. It is DICAS season officially at the time of this recording, and hopefully give you some really good advice, help you just feel more confident after this boot camp to really tackle your applications in a way that maybe you didn't think about before, or you didn't have quite the right strategy when you were approaching them. Just as some housekeeping rules, there is the chat box. I did drop a few important links that are at the top of the chat. And then if you want to introduce yourself, feel free to do that as well. And then feel free to also drop questions in as I go through. I will keep an eye on it. Certainly want to make sure you are following and understand everything, but we'll also have time for questions at the end of today. Again, very excited to have live participants. I know it can be hard with your busy schedules and everything, but it's great that you're taking time out of your day, investing in this process, investing in yourself and developing skills, and really giving yourself the best possible chance of getting into your top choice dietetics program. So I see here that we have people from a lot of different states. We have Austin, Texas, we have Michigan State, Western Illinois, Idaho State, Virginia State, Hawaii, University of Illinois, that's where I went, go Illini, and University of Delaware, Wisconsin, University of Alabama. We even have someone from Nigeria here, Oakland, so many different spots. It's hilarious. There's like no repeats of where we have. Oh, we have one more person from University of Illinois and then University of New Mexico. And that's just the live. So hopefully those listening in to the recording are also from all over the place. It's so great to see people all over the country and the world participating in this. So we're going to kick off today and really dive into the DICAS application process, because here's your problem. And I like to kind of set the stage with the problem, and then we follow up with the solution. You know that this is a very important step. It's a required step in the process of becoming a dietitian, but you may not get support on what to do or how to do it really well in order to stand out. Like this whole application process, maybe you've applied for jobs before, but it's like you've never really done it to this extent, like for this type of situation, and you're overwhelmed by everything that is involved. I also feel like some students or applicants are completely on their own. Maybe they're out of school. Maybe you do have an advisor at your DPD program or at wherever you're doing your graduate school. You know, everyone has a lot of different backgrounds before they apply to programs, but the thing is that there's this gap that I feel is missing. It's kind of like this confidence gap that people don't know how to sell themselves, market themselves, kind of use all their hard work to their advantage and go all in on this application process. And that's what I want to give you some strategy about today. As a really quick introduction, so since 2010, that's when we started our coaching, our admissions coaching program. We used to do a lot of different types of coaching offerings, but now it's, as of right now, we have Get Matched Coaching, and then we have a program just for January called App Class, which is a modified version of the coaching program where you still can work with a coach in the month of January. But since 2010, we've worked with over 2,200 applicants individually to help them through the process of doing their personal statement, finding the programs they should apply to, the resume, the interview, all of that. And we know how to shape their unique story and increase their chances of getting into their top choice. And we had 100% success rate in the last 2 years with all of our clients. The application process is complicated. There are a lot of different components to it. That's why I'm always saying, like, start early, break this down into smaller pieces, tackle it, kind of like create that roadmap for yourself. But you have things like the program research, the communicating with directors, or attending the open houses, or attending an info session, the personal statement, resume, the actual application, all of that for each different program if they have different components to their application. Then you have references and coordinating all of that, maybe having meetings with your references. There's computer matching if you are applying to those types of programs. And then if you're applying to distance programs, which the distance programs being the ones that you can stay in your geographical area, but then go to, have a preceptor, set up preceptors, then you have the whole workload of finding preceptors and getting those all lined up for yourself. And that's about half the spots now that are available are distance spots when you look at all possible spots for DICAS and dietetics programs. And then there's supplemental materials. There's other grad school applications if you have to do that alongside a dietetic internship application, and then GRE, figuring out financial aid, all of those things, and just really understanding the process itself. And like, how do I write a good personal statement? How do I put together my resume so it stands out in a good way, not because it's poorly formatted or hard to read, right? So there's a lot of different components here. And what I find that successful applicants do right in all of this is they start early. Of course, it's January right now. It's about a month out from the February 15th deadline, which is a common deadline. It's not the only deadline for programs now that things have sort of changed a little bit more. There's programs that go on like more of a graduate school deadline than the computer matching deadline, which is February 15th. But in general, we're kind of in crunch time here, but you want to start as early as possible. If you are a year or so out, you want to know that. And then you want to spend about 100 hours on the application process on average. That's my number from, again, working individually with coaching clients through this process and kind of feeling like that was about the magic number, the minimum almost that you would want to hit to make sure you're doing enough work. And that includes, setting up interviews with your references or with programs, all of the work involved, and spending all that time on a really great personal statement rather than just a couple hours like pulling that together. And then they plan a timeline and give themselves additional milestone deadlines. We do this with our coaching clients where it is not just what is your application deadline, it is what is the deadline for choosing your programs, what's your deadline for completing your reference info sheet that you want to give to your reference, what's your deadline for completing your first draft of your resume, for your first draft of your personal statement, when you want to complete the final personal statement, and really break it down. Any big goal should really be broken down into little milestones, and you want to work backwards so that you don't feel so overwhelmed and you do things in a way that makes sense. I think a lot of times what we've seen from students is, and maybe they're just starting like coaching program, or maybe they're not even a client, we just kind of know what's going on in their world. They tend to just get very overwhelmed. They like want to start filling out their DICAS application. And we're like, wait, you have like 5 other things that you should do first to make that better. But it's like, oh, I know how to like fill out an application. So I'm just going to start here. And that's going to be my, like, I can check that off my list, but it's not actually the right thing to do at that time. There's really kind of a process that you want to build on, starting with like program research, director communication, all those other components first. And the actual like filling out of the application comes much later on, if not like kind of the final thing in your application process. So again, we're trying to shift your mindset here and think differently about this. Just knowing that we've gone through it thousands of times with students individually, and now gosh, like 22 match deadlines. If you think about 2 a year for the last 10, 11, 12 years, then that's why I'm saying that you want to think differently about the order that you do things, the strategy there, so that you're not just like checking a box, even though it's not that productive, but you think it is. And finally, they go all in on themselves. I know a lot of times the people that don't get matched, these would not be clients, but maybe clients that have come to us, they try on their own to apply, and then they don't get in. And so then they sign up to do the coaching, and they'll be like, I didn't put in my full effort. I didn't go all in. I didn't, care enough about each step of the process to give myself the best chance. And that was the issue here. Sorry, I just got one note here to mute a mic. So let me just do that real quick. Make sure we're good. Now I can't find how to do it. Hold on. I'm just trying to mute everyone here. Sorry if there's any issue. I didn't hear it, but someone heard it. So let me Okay, we'll see if that solves it. All right. So, and the final reminder again is that the deadline only gets closer, and you want to think not just about the final deadline, but all the other deadlines that are mixed in there. Here are 3 steps to kick off your applications. And you might have been like working on this slowly, or, been visiting it, doing something, coming back to it. But now it's like, all right, if you're February 15th deadline, now you're working on this every single week from here on out, maybe every other day from here on out, depending on how much you've already accomplished until now. And I'm hoping these 3 steps will help you just make sure that you're checking these boxes and you know exactly what you need to do. So number 1, doing your program research. This is something that has come up where students do not spend enough time knowing about all the different types of programs, all the different options that they have. There are so many more options than there's ever been with programs. And of course, you could have your heart set on one program, that's the exact program that you want, or maybe you're limited by geography and you're like, this is definitely the one, or I know I want to stay at my university, so I'm definitely going to apply there. Certainly, everyone has their different story behind this, but I'm trying to speak to everyone here and just give that blanket disclaimer that you should be looking at different types of programs. Like, even if you do have to stay in one geographical area, can you look at distance programs or certain other types of programs, like ones that have multiple locations across the country? For example, maybe you're in California and you're thinking, oh, there's, you go to the program directory and you see these like 12 programs that you could apply to, but you're not seeing the distance programs that are maybe based other places, but you could do your internship or your program in California, but they're distance. So you could do that. So those are more options for you. Same with these types of programs, Sodexo, Aramark, Morrison. Those are examples of ones that they don't show up in a certain state. They show up in whatever state like the company is actually based in, but they have rotation spots and locations for interns all across the country. And so that's what I mean by you're kind of like, if you're not doing that program research and digging into all those possibilities, then you're missing out on opportunities for programs that could be a really great fit for you. They might even be lower in cost than the ones that you were considering, and you would still find to be helpful. I'll never forget like telling a dietitian, or a future dietitian applicant about a certain program that was like half the price of the one that she was thinking about. She didn't even know existed and that it would like make sense for her. And that decision alone saves her like $30,000. I mean, it's like, there's so much value to doing the program research. And then even knowing about programs like VA programs from Veterans Affairs. They have programs that have stipends that are, somewhat upwards of like a $25,000 stipend to do the program. Again, these are all just like possibilities you could be thinking about that would be the best fit for all the different factors that you're looking for in your program. I like to say that all programs in general are like same cake, different frosting, which I say same cake because everyone goes through the same credentialing accreditation process to get their program to be suitable for being able to then sit for the RD exam. But there is that different frosting in terms of how they're set up, the types of program types of rotations that they have, and the experiences they can offer, the emphasis in their graduate program, the types of courses they can take, like so many different things that make them really unique that you find out through the research process. My final step here is getting creepy with LinkedIn. And I think this is really helpful. This is what we'll guide our coaching clients through. They might form this list of, let's say, 5 programs that they're really interested in. And then it's hard for them to know, well, which one do I want the most, or which would be the best fit for me? And that's where we get creepy on LinkedIn and we say, hey, go search. You can get a free premium account, a free trial premium account on LinkedIn. You can search dietetic internship and then like the program name or dietetic intern program name and try to find past interns or current interns that go there, and then be able to get that insight, like try to connect with them, try to email them. You can also do this on Instagram or other ways through Google or searching people, but LinkedIn tends to be good because a lot of people put the name of their program in their profile. and try to get that insight of what it's really like, kind of share your goals. Do they think that that would be a good fit based on what your goals are, and get that information. So that's a big part of this process that a lot of people skip, or they feel like, oh, I don't need to do that. But I do find it very helpful, and it can really, if you're entering with an open mind, it can be very valuable. It may even save you money. It may be even a better fit for you. You might have a better chance of getting into that program versus the ones that you're looking at. So huge part of the application process. The action step here would be to get our free application toolkit, which in general, you should get this if you don't have it already. These are all samples from our Get Matched course that we have, that we use in coaching. But in this application toolkit, you have our program directory. And the program directory has all these different tabs of all the different program types, distance programs. You can filter, you can download it, filter it, edit it. It's a very user-friendly tool to help you with this process. And you can keep notes in there because you download it. It's kind of like your own file. And between that and then the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has a program directory too. I would say you can use some of the filters on their end as well, but on our database, you can also search for those distance programs that might not show up and how you're searching on the Academy's page. So I would say both are really great resources, and you can grab that for free. I dropped it at the top of the chat, the link to that. So that's number one, do your program research. If anyone has questions, feel free to drop in the chat. I can address those. I'm able to kind of keep up with it. So if anything there didn't make sense, let me know. And then number two is highlighting the big three experiences. So I talk about this all the time because students ask, what experiences should I get to be competitive for a dietetics program? And I talk about the big three, which is foundational experience. That's something that's similar to an internship rotation or your supervised experiential learning hours, kind of the same thing, just different names. So something that would be similar to that, something in like clinical or food service or community nutrition education, ideally under a dietitian for that type of experience. So they definitely want, like in the personal statement, you're definitely talking about that experience. The second would be leadership experience. Leadership is the number one trait that all directors are looking for. It shows so much when you can prove that you have leadership experience. This can be it's something like being president or on the executive committee of a club, all the way up to like supervisor in your job, even if it's non-dietetics related, or something that's like a one-time thing that you did and you led a team of people towards an outcome. That is amazing, and that should definitely be highlighted in your personal statement. And then finally, your goal-related experience. So what happens here, this gets really tricky because when we're trying to best create a story for an applicant, like helping them brainstorm, how do they tell their unique story? A big part of it is creating a theme and being able to say, you know, in very simple terms, like, here's what I'm all about. And a lot of times it has to do with the goals. So, for example, I always use sports nutrition. Sports nutrition can be a theme, and you can then include in your personal statement. It doesn't have to be all about sports, but you want to hit the sports nutrition theme a few times in your personal statement. That means maybe why you got interested in sports nutrition initially, and you introduce that. And then what experience you had in sports nutrition, that would be like your goal related experience. You talk about your sports nutrition related goals, and then you talk about why the program and the rotation it has in sports nutrition is going to really align with your future. And that's how it's like woven throughout. There might be other questions that you answer where you wouldn't talk about sports nutrition, but as long as you're hitting it multiple times, that will help that it stick out to them, that you have this theme and that you have a clear alignment with the program. So you have to make sure that you have experience in your goal area so that you can talk about both the experience and that goal. So you're hitting on the theme twice. Sometimes when we're working with clients, they'll be like, well, I really do think sports nutrition would be awesome. I just don't have sports nutrition experience. Then we start to think like, what else are you interested in? We don't want you to lie, but we want you to think like, that's aligned with something that you actually have experience in, it'll just make a stronger case that you know, that would be realistic to you because you have exposure to it already, and go with that theme instead. So that's something that happens sort of at the end when we can't control it. When we have clients start early and we get to know what their goals are, we help make sure that they can set up an experience in their goal area so that by the time they go and apply, they're ready to be able to talk about it. So those are the experiences that you want to highlight in the personal statement, and also, you know, in the interview process, make sure that's even on your resume. The thing about the resume that's really interesting is a lot of people will organize it like they'll do different sections. So they'll do education, then they'll do work experience, volunteer experience. But I really challenge that. And this is in our free application toolkit in the resume checklist that you'll get. But I challenge that and say, have a section called dietetics experience, which kind of goes along with foundational experience. Have a section that says leadership experience, and have like the 1, 2, 3 things that you've done as a leader, and have that in there so that when they read that, they clearly see, oh, he or she has foundational experience in dietetics. He or she has leadership experience in some way, rather than breaking it up by work and volunteer. And then they have to sort of dig through and like find leadership experience, maybe in your volunteer, your work positions. You're making it very easy for them to see, oh, they have this, great. And that's what we're looking for. Good pro tip for you. Hope you all wrote that down, because that's a good one and a huge change. That's like a game changer in the resume, because they can skim that really easily and see that you have those things. Bonus points for experiences would be professional involvement. If you have the DTR, if you created an experience, or you took initiative to create an experience, or maybe started a new club on campus, or started a new internship program or something, you know, whatever it is, those are all great things to highlight as well. Number 3, this goes into the confidence gap that I was talking about before, where I said, you know, people don't know how to sell themselves, how to present themselves confidently, even though they have done all this work, they've gotten experience. Then it's like, how do you actually say that? Because you know that your competition, other applicants, are going to have similar experience as you. And so how do you stand out? There's 3 different ways here, and we use this in Get Match coaching and in app class as well, like through working with a coach. Number 1 is the STAR method. For sake of time, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it is a method that's used very much in interviews. And what it stands for is situation, task, action, and result. Situation, task, action, and result. And that's how you tell a story around your experience. So in your personal statement, you don't want to repeat what's on your resume and just like list off all your responsibilities. You want to dive into a specific STAR story and be able to share that story as proof of a skill that you have. So for example, if I was talking like you were a dietary aide or something at a hospital, and your skill that you wanted to highlight there was your ability to communicate with patients, you wouldn't just say, I was able to communicate well with patients, I collected their food trays, whatever, and you just like list off what you did. You need to show a story that shows that you were an excellent patient communicator, and kind of work backwards, like when was your best experience or interaction with a patient, and then tell that story. So you might say, the situation, I was a dietary aide where I was responsible for taking meal orders at this hospital that had beds for people with neurological disorders, as well as cancer and whatever. So that's a situation, and kind of your task too, like you had to take orders. And in this specific situation, you had to work with this one patient who kept refusing to order meals with the previous dietary aide, and they would skip meals and all that stuff. So the action that you took was you really slowed down that process. You sat with them, you pulled up a chair, and you kind of got to know him first. You built some rapport. You didn't just dive right into like, what do you want to eat? And then through that relationship building, he started to trust you. And then slowly you were able to get an order from him that he really enjoyed, that aligned with his diet order. And as a result, the patient did eat their meals and really expressed their gratitude because they enjoyed the options and were really thankful you spent that time. So you can see how that is so much more powerful in showing the skill that you have of patient communication or interpersonal skills, rather than just saying, I collected diet orders, I took orders from patients, and kind of repeat what you might put on your resume. So that's the STAR method. Then director communication is another big component of selling yourself confidently, because so many students don't contact directors. They don't have a communication strategy for having a director get to know them outside of the application. And that's huge, because we're all humans. There's a bias there. And if you make the effort to create a relationship before they even see your application, that will have a positive effect, assuming you had a positive strategy and you showed, really good skills. Obviously, if you sent them an email with a ton of grammar errors and it wasn't professional, then that will work against you. But if you have a really positive experience in communication, then you will be able to show your confidence that you're able to do that with the director. You're not intimidated and you're asking very good questions. And then finally, there is confidence in your attention to detail and making sure that you're following instructions, that you're completing DICAS properly, that you are kind of going above and beyond where you can to really stand out. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that throughout how you fill out the DICAS application, what you're saying in the personal statement, all of the communication outside of the application. And just your overall, for example, like if they require that you send in something via mail, then you're doing a good job of having a very neat envelope, something with a label that looks nice, and you're just trying to make sure every detail is good and presentable, professional, and that it shows that you really care and you're very excited about the potential of being in their program. All right, so we just went through the 3 steps here to kick it off. So the program research strategy, highlighting your big 3 experiences, and then understanding strategies. And I gave you some examples for presenting yourself confidently to directors. So those are like big picture, really important things to keep in mind as you approach your applications. I'm not going to share the video here, but I wanted to include the link. I put it at the top of the chat box so that you could see a very quick tutorial of DICAS. It would be well worth your time if you have not seen this video yet. I think it's only like 6 minutes, but I wanted to make sure that you had it and looked at that so you understood the big picture of DICAS, especially how it's new. If you are a repeat applicant and you maybe have worked in the old DICAS before, looking at this new one and making sure that you understand how it all works. Thankfully, I was able to, thankfully, the new DICAS, since we've obviously worked in the old DICAS before, this new DICAS is better to understand, which makes me very excited. But it is a little bit more work on the applicant side, because you have to, one part of it is that you have to, in the coursework section, actually input every single course you've taken and all the attempts of the courses that you've taken, as opposed to previously it used to be just your DPD courses. But now that we have applicants that don't need their DPD in order to apply to graduate programs in dietetics through DICAS, that has changed. So DICAS does offer like a service for them to take your transcripts and put the courses in, but that is definitely an extra burden on the applicant this year. All right, we did have one question before I move on. What types of skills can I add to my resume that's related to dietetics? So if you're thinking like, do you need a skills section for your resume? I don't think you do. And I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, but sometimes if you see like Microsoft Word templates for resumes, they'll have a skills section. It'll just list off a bunch of words. That tends to be more fluffy to me, meaning like not necessary. And because you have a personal statement along with your resume, it's not necessary. And I actually wouldn't recommend it. I would remove it. Instead, I would show those skills through the bullet points and through like the experiences where you actually use those skills. But in general, skills to think about, I would say, if I can name like 5 really important skills, I would say leadership, communication, teamwork, taking initiative, And then probably something around time management or dealing with a lot of pressure, or like your ability to perform under pressure or to perform under deadlines. Those would be the big ones that I would think about showing in your resume, and for sure, and then in your personal statement, depending on, which ones you think you have the best, are your best skills. All right, and then let's get into some DICAS tips here. So DICAS, there is the opportunity to create different personal statements, and this is now set up much clearer than it's ever been. So that's really good, but you can see in like the program materials section of DICAS, you'll be able to upload a specific personal statement. The question that we get a lot is like, how different do they have to be? And typically, like how we do it with our coaching clients, typically the statement, the majority of the statement will work for every program you're applying to, except you might need, or you definitely will want to change the section where you talk about why the program is a good fit for you, which you do want to do in each one. You want to show the alignment there between what your goals are and what the program can provide you, and kind of, get into like what makes the program different and why you're specifically excited about it. But, and then you might have to change your goals depending on if you have like two versions of goals to be able to line yourself up with like different types of programs. For example, like if it's a heavily clinical program, you might have more of a clinical goal. But then if it's more of a community-based program, you might tweak your goals a little bit to align better with the program. All right. And then asking references at least 4 weeks in advance. This is stressful for a lot of people. So that's why I bring this up, because a lot of times references will wait really long, or they are really busy themselves. And so you want to give them enough time. But the key to help reduce a ton of stress is if you ask the reference, when can I expect you to complete your reference by? And they can tell you like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do it until February 14th or whatever. I will do it on February 14th. Then you're not worrying and stressing out about it. You know that they're going to do it on February 14th or whatever date they give you. So that I would say asking for that directly is going to help save a lot of you trying to like ask them back and forth of when they're going to get it done. And I did get a question here about references. So when we enter our references contact info, does DICAS send them the forms to fill out at the time we enter their info? And do their letters need to be returned by February 15th? So the, yes, so this will automate a, because I've been a reference myself. So like I will get a form that has a rating scale. So the reference will rate you on all, like, I think it's like 15 different skills. And then there'll be the option to add in like strengths and weaknesses, like written in answer there. And then the option to either copy and paste or add a PDF reference document, like a reference letter that they would then complete and then submit that back. And that's attached to your application. The DICAS will not keep you from submitting if that's not complete by your deadline, which is really good, because if it's their fault that they were late, then they don't want you to be like punished for that. So you're able to still submit. But ideally, you need to make sure that they have submitted by the deadline, like do everything in your power to make sure that you get it by their deadline. Or what, it might be February 15th if that's your program's deadline, but remember there are different deadlines now. So just double check what your program's deadlines actually are. And then another program here another question on references. Do all programs require letters of recommendation? I've seen specific programs only request the email for the references to send the forms to fill out. Well, yeah, so there is now this ability for programs to set up how they want their application to go. It's not as standard as it used to be in years past, but I think with what you're saying here, they could just request the email. The email would be what's needed to then send the DICAS reference form to the reference. So I think that's the same thing that I was saying before, but then, the reference would complete that. All right. And then the next tip is have specific goals that you share and that align. This is when I did a podcast episode on like the top 10 mistakes that applicants make. Definitely worth checking out. That's on the Dear Future Dietitian podcast, which is found on all the different podcast players. But I did one on the resume, personal statement, and then top mistakes to avoid. But I wanted to bring this one up here because a lot of times people will be asked, like, what are your short-term and long-term goals in the personal statement? That's a common question. Not all programs will ask that, but it's common. And sometimes you still want to like even share that so they know more about you. But a lot of times they'll say like, my short-term goal is to get into a dietetic internship or into a graduate program. My long-term goal is to become a dietitian. It's a really terrible answer. You want to have short-term goals about 5 years out and long-term goals like 10 to 20 years out. And you do that because it really shows your passion for the field and that you've researched the field and that you understand the different milestones that you'd want to hit. So you want to include like more education that you would get, leadership roles that you would take on, how you'd want to advance your career. Like you don't just be a clinical dietitian forever. You can move on to become a clinical nutrition manager. You can specialize, you can get additional board certifications, get involved in the field and the DPGs, the dietetic practice group. So it's really important. And that's like a big part of the brainstorming process with coaches during the personal statement. It's coming up with those details so that it shows that you're really passionate and it stands out, because a lot of people will really just put like short-term, get a program, long-term, become a dietitian, and maybe say like, and I want to be a sports dietitian, but they leave it at that. They don't go into more detail about how they want their career to progress. And then finally, my last DICAS tip is to get your whole application reviewed by an expert. Obviously, people have different sources. We find that All Access Dietetics is the most credentialed expert because of how many applications and how many students we've worked with. I don't think there's anyone else in the whole country that has seen more applications than we have. Even the directors that have been around for like 40 years or something, we've seen more applications than they have. So we're definitely the experts, the nation's experts in reviewing applications, in knowing what directors want. And so I will go into a couple options that you have for getting help from us. But in general, if that's not for you, then it would be, getting other dietitians or even a career center, although the career centers don't follow the same rules as dietetics program world. So there might be a little misalignment there, but like just kind of know that they're not from dietetics. So you take everything they say with that level of discernment of like, is this really applicable to me or not? And then obviously for grammar errors and everything, you definitely want to get that reviewed and get another set of eyeballs on that. All right, I have one question here, and then we will have a question answers at the end. And I know I'm already like going over time here, so we'll wrap this up pretty quick before the Q&A. But there's just one question. If you have been cited on a blog or a website, is that appropriate? Or is that something that can be added to my applications under publications? I would not say, so I wouldn't call it publications then. I would say like nutrition communication examples or something like that, because publications means like research, like if you've been published for research, not blog posts. So that would just be, I would just name it something different. So it's not misleading, but it is something that you could either include listed, or you can just link to a portfolio that you have that would have the links and the examples of the different places you've been, you've contributed works to. So my vote, if I just had to guess right now, would be do a portfolio and include all that there, and then link to the portfolio on your resume under your name, like in your contact information. All right, so I'm going to wrap up here with like 2 opportunities if you want to get more support from us. Because really you do not need to go through this application process alone. And I think it's really important that you know that these exist. We obviously have the free application toolkit, which is a great start and kind of a sample of the type of strategy that we go through. But if you're feeling like alone in all of this and you want that expert by your side, there's Get Match Coaching, although that is closed for the February 15th deadline. But if there's anyone on here or listening that is applying for a deadline that's more in the future than February 15th, then Get Match Coaching is available to you. If you're with the February 15th, it is closed, but I'll talk about app class, which is what you can do now if you're applying for that February-ish deadline. But Get Match Coaching, you can go to our website to learn more about that, but that is really our all-inclusive design program that gives you that exact roadmap, expert support, the accountability, eyeballs on everything, every single piece of material, like really holding your hand throughout every step of the process. And people will start that as early as 1 year before their deadline. So that's something that you can get started with that early. And then app class, which I'm so pumped about this, we sort of remodified something that we've done in the past around this time, but app class has all the things that you need to help you through this final stage of like actually applying. So Get Match Coaching goes over a lot more around like getting experience and more mentorship and more like program research and preceptor search help. App class is geared more towards personal statement, resume, DICAS, and making sure that you're submitting an error-free application, that you're using all the strategies, that you're writing a really good personal statement and resume. And so that you can enroll in now. There are limited spots, so we're not sure how quickly we'll fill up. We have a team of 9 coaches, so we're hoping, they already have their Get Match Coaching clients, but we're making sure we're not going to overload them towards the end. So this could fill up sooner than January 31st, but I would suggest enrolling as soon as possible if you're interested. With that, just to tell you everything that's in it, we have with app class, you get the Get Match course, which is the full roadmap, like to-do list with guides, templates, sample resumes, sample, not sample personal statements, but sample like answers for personal statements. So many different tools that you can use to do this and really take your application to the next level. And then you will work with a coach. You'll get paired up with a coach who will take you through revising your personal statement, doing a brainstorm and an edits call, revising your resume, and then being able to look at your final DICAS before you submit it, give you all the errors that you made. We find an average of 20 errors in every DICAS application, just because you've looked at it so many times. You will have grammar errors, you will have formatting errors, completion errors. We find them all every time. I've never had a DICAS review that didn't have errors in it. So we'll do that. And then we make the edits or we don't make them, we tell you what edits to make. And then we review it one final time once you make the edits before you submit. And then there's a Q&A coaching call included as well for things that might come up. But for other Q&A, then we have a community that will be led by coaches that you'll have access to as well. So we made this huge program. It has over $1,600 in value, but we made the price as accessible as we could at $497. And there are payment plans available. So you don't have to pay in full. You can just pay a portion of it and get started with your coach right after that, immediately. So if you're interested, go to our website. I dropped the links in here below, but I'll do them again so that you can have access to that. And the other 2 things, so the free application toolkit and then the DICAS applicant video. But yeah, that is the app class, and we already have a bunch of people in there already, and we're hoping to have a really good group that will just be motivating, to be able to do it together with someone and also have that individual coach with you to hold you accountable, set up those mini deadlines, and make sure that you really have a great, less stressful journey through the next month here, so that you can get through this process and get into that top choice. So remember, if you are applying into a farther deadline, Get Match Coaching is the option for you. But if you're applying for the February 15th deadline, then app class is the option for you. And my challenge to you, kind of putting on my coach hat here, just because I know procrastination means that you're nervous or you're scared, or maybe this is a big decision for you financially to invest in something like this. I would say do what you need to do, talk to whoever you need to talk to, look through the program. If you feel like it's going to fit a need for you, decide by Thursday and start this weekend. There's no reason to delay it anymore because of just the nature of how close we are to the deadline. And you're going to feel a lot of relief when you sign up with someone that can give you that expert guidance, and you have them right there with you to get through this and to go all in on yourself, on this application, and really on your future career. So we're here to help. If you have any questions on that too, feel free to ask those as well. Or, you can DM our Instagram account or chat in on the website, and we are happy to guide you through that and help you make that choice. All right, so that's all I have for you. That was the DICAS Bootcamp. And I hope that this just gave you a lot of strategy, a lot of mindset shifts. And then of course, we're here if you want more there. So, oh, and I did get a question. So yeah, match day. This is match day is actually just for dietetic internships. I know that there are graduate programs in dietetics that won't be participating in match day. So it's for the majority of applicants, but not all applicants. It's basically the day that you find out where you get in. Graduate programs will just be telling people where they get in. It won't be on a specific day, but if you're doing the match process with internships, then you're matched on a specific day, which is usually the first Sunday in April. Which will be the match day, or basically the day that you know that you got into your top choice. All right, well, I'm getting a couple of direct messages here too, so I'll be sure to answer those once I stop the recording. But does anyone have any other questions for me or anything about app class or Get Match coaching or DICAS in general? Drop them in the chat. I'll give you guys a minute here to do that. Otherwise, for those of you that want to pop off, you're free to go. Class adjourned, but thanks for coming live. It was great to see people all across the country, and I hope you got a lot out of today. So thank you. All right. So I got a question here about applying to one program that's distance. And is it reasonable to apply to one program? So I have this rule around 50 spots. So I say not 50 programs, but 50 spots. So if you are looking to apply and you want to make sure that you give yourself a chance at 50 different seats in either one program or multiple programs. So I think if your program that you're referring to has 50, then I'd feel fine with that decision. And I know everyone's really different, but if it has less, I might consider adding on one more program. And that would just be me being like very conservative, making sure you get in, like kind of treating you like a client where we always have a backup plan, because we don't want you to be in a situation where you're scrambling to try to get in second round, or, risk yourself not getting into a program at all. All right. Another question, how early can you join with Get Match coaching? We don't really have a limit on this, because some people are just want to have the mentorship and kind of have someone that they can talk to as they're getting themselves prepared and getting experience and, starting to do program research. So a year in advance, a year and a half in advance is fine. We've had some juniors that have started the program with us. So we don't really limit it. There's just a set of services that you get, and you can space them out over whatever time frame you would like. And then another question, do you offer something as simple as coaches just to review your application? The simplest we have is app class, because we want, it is so important. Like the personal statement is the most important part of the application. If you're going to invest in any help, we want to make sure that's really good, and your resume is really good, and your DICAS is really good. So we don't just do one. We really want to do all three, because we want to have the best results. So if we only did your DICAS app, but you had a terrible personal statement, like no offense, but if it was, you were saying things that you shouldn't have said, then that would be really a waste of money, because it wouldn't help your chance of getting in. It would only address that one part of your application, not the most important parts. So completely understand that finances could be an issue, but unfortunately we just want to make sure that anyone that does invest is going to get the results that we're trying to get them. Okay, I have an application deadline for March 1st. Would you suggest doing app class or Get Matched? You could still do Get Matched. Get Matched is more intensive. It's the investment on that is $2,800. So you would just, that might be part of your decision, but you definitely could do Get Match coaching. And I would say just go to the website, and at the bottom of the Get Match coaching page, there's the opportunity to schedule a call talk with a member of our team, and that would probably be your best bet to determining the differences in the program and what would fit your needs the best. So I think definitely scheduling that call would be your next step. Right. What would you suggest I include in an email to the future program director, or to a program director of a program that you're applying to? In that you want to pitch yourself, you want to share your unique background, interests, goals, do that in a few sentences, and then ask questions that are going to help you decide if that program aligns with your goals and your interests. So for example, if it's sports nutrition that you're interested in, the question might be like, what are examples of exposure to working with sports dietitians can I get? Or if you're really interested in clinical, you can ask, I noticed that you have clinical rotations. Are you able to spend more time in certain areas of the hospital, or is it like preset certain amount of hours in all the different areas? Like digging into more details besides what's on the website, because that will help you have some really specific answers for why that program is a good fit for you. So you're really trying to get content from the director that will help you answer the question of like, why is this a good fit? You want to get that information like through your director of communication, and you want to be able to present yourself and let them get to know you, right? And even like, say, if you have time, I'd love to be able to talk on the phone or do a Zoom, because again, you're just creating a relationship there and a connection. So not all directors have the time to do a Zoom or a phone call, but I would certainly ask if you could. All right, I think, let's see, will doing a master's in DI in the same university be advised in 2024 or just one at a time? There are many different pathways now for getting to that RD credential. We have that on our website under the menu item, how to become a dietitian. And we go through like, based on your education, what all the different steps you could take, all the different, like choose your own adventure. So you can do a master's with a DI, you can do a master's and then a DI. You can do a graduate program in dietetics, which would be the ones that include the supervised practice plus the required coursework. You don't even need a DPD for those types of programs. So there's not really like one path that's advised. There's a lot of different paths now that you can take in combinations and that you can do. So, and yeah, I don't really have like I've seen so many different paths that work really well. Like they all work well as long as it gets you to taking that RD exam. So I don't have a favorite, and I've only done my own experience, which is I did a DPD program and then I did a DI. I actually never did a graduate program, so I can't really speak to that. But talking to people that have done those different paths would be a good next step. All right, a couple more questions here. I just want to wrap up by the end of the hour, but what do you suggest doing if we take a gap year with a nutrition BS with a DPD to get more experience? I could apply to get a DTR credential, but I see positions are limited. With just knowing that about you, like no other information, my thought process and what I've kind of pushed people towards is trying to get that RD as soon as possible. And just the fact that with the DPD, there is still like 5 or 6 programs out there. They're distance programs that would allow you to just do the internship rotations and be done by December, so that you could sit for the RD, like you're eligible then for the RD exam, which means that you never have to get a graduate degree if you don't want it. And so or if you don't even know yet what you want it in, right? So I'm like pushing people to just try to like do that if that's an option, if they'd consider that. Otherwise, yeah, just you might not need as much experience as you think, or, you know, some people, it's maybe more of a confidence issue that you don't feel ready to apply, but I would kind of push you to kind of like go through it. But of course, I don't know anything about your personal life situation or financial situation. So I, take that however you'd like, but I would say the RD and getting that as soon as possible in whatever regard that is to you, would be my suggestion. Oh, yeah, and the programs that are the ones that you can do now for February deadline that you would start in like the summer and finish before 2024. That would be Morrison Healthcare, Nutrico, Priority Nutrition Care, and Keith and Associates are the ones that come to mind that you can finish. You can do that program and finish before 2024. And then you don't have to pass the RD exam by 2024. You just have to be eligible. Oh, and Be Well Solutions. I knew I was missing one. Be Well Solutions is another that you will be able to finish and not need that master's degree to sit for the RD exam. All right, well, I think I'm going to wrap it up then. And thank you for those great questions at the end there and for participating live and asking all those. I hope you got a lot out of today. I'm just going to stop my share here. And the sun has set since we started so early, but I hope you guys have a great DICAS season. And again, reach out to us if we can help you be a part of your journey with either Get Match coaching or app class. And remember, with app class, you do get a personal coach as well with that. So enjoy the rest of your night. I'm going to stop the recording, and we'll hope to hear from you soon, or hope to see you in app class or Get Match coaching. All right. Thanks, everyone.